Good morning, folks. How's it going?
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning. I see a whole bunch of folks coming. I'm just gonna allow them, start admitting them in. For those of you who have not been on a call of mine before, my name's Justine. I'm a support specialist with Simplero. I am often in our weekly workshops, but today is obviously a very topic-specific workshop. So we're going to cover automations and go over what dripping access is, because you can do dripping access amongst lots of different things inside of Simplero. So I'm just going to get started, and towards the end, I will leave time for like questions in case you guys have any. So make sure you keep them in a note or something, so you don't forget. But I'm going to pull up my notes real quick to make sure I don't forget anything. So I'm going to start off with what an automation is. So in Simplero, we consider an automation, there is either a simple automation or there is a like advanced automation. So in Simplero terms, a simple automation would be something like a trigger or an response. That would be something that is more so, it's a one action type of thing, but it happens automatically. Advanced automations, which we'll go into a little further later, is more so a multiple different steps. You can control a lot more of what's in the advanced automations compared to a simple automation. Um, so I'm going to share my screen real fast as we go into these. So when you're on your dashboard, you're going to be able to go into your contacts and you can go down to list. So inside of um, you're going to be able to have a whole bunch of different tabs, but off to the three dots right here, there is auto responses. Auto responses are those simple automations in Simplero terms, in terms of like, these are a series of emails that'll go out based off of when somebody subscribes to your list. These are also available in products. And then in the content tab here, you'll also have the option for triggers. So triggers are another form of like a simple automation where you're able to set it up that when something happens, another thing is able to happen. It's instant, it's right away. It doesn't like go back or anything like that. It's more so just when like somebody subscribes to your list or maybe someone purchases your product, it is going to have another thing happen, like add a tag or, you know, add them to another list or something like that. Um, then we're going to go into our marketing tab here on that top navigation, and we're going to go into automations. So these are those advanced automations. This is where you're going to have a lot more control. So when we create a new automation, we're going to have lots of different options in terms of what type of automation is it going to be. Um, this is more so in terms of how are you going to restrict the way that it works, and how are you going to be able to add people into it. If you have it flexible, that will cover any type of entrance, whether that's manual or through a product or an event or anything like that, that you don't really have to worry about like, well, I tried to add them to an automation and it didn't work. Contact is going to be specific to that contact record. You can do it manually. It's really based off of things happening to the contact itself. A list subscription is going to be restricted to someone being subscribed to a list or not. The same with the opt-in. That would mean that somebody would have to opt into a sign-up form, like a landing page sign-up form or an embedded form. Product participant would mean that would be if you have like the billing contact might be different than your product participant. Only triggers that would be specific to your product participant would be able to work for that automation. And the same with the purchase. Event participant would make sure that it is specific to like the event, so that that one is really great, especially if you are connecting an automation, like a reminder automation, for like scheduling links or events, and you want people to be able to go in, maybe have multiple different flows, and then that makes sure that it only cancels the flow connected to that specific event. Um, the rest of them, it's kind of what I've already explained. It's attached to whatever it is that you're selecting. So if you want to restrict, if you want it connected to a specific thing, like a list or event or anything like that, this is going to be where you're able to select that. Now, once we've created our new automation, it's going to pull up like this now. You're going to have the option where it's going to show here. It's going to tell you what kind of automation it is. And if you create it, you're not stuck. You don't have to worry about, oh, well, I meant to have this be a list subscription or I meant it to be like an event participant. You can always go back in and change it. We go here to the settings icon in that top right corner. And this is where you're going to be able to have that object type show up so that you can control it, you can change it, and be able to have it more so, that restricted type. You can also add conditions to the automation as a whole. You can add those conditions on like the different triggers if you would like, but this would be in terms of the entire automation, regardless of what trigger, or what connection you have for this automation. We also have those advanced settings. This could be if you want someone to like only ever be in the automation once. Like maybe you have a freebie and you have different lists being added to that freebie flow and you don't want people to take advantage of the freebie more than once. This could be a great way to kind of restrict that in terms of the only allow a given contact to go in once. If you have this connected to like reminders or something like that, I would encourage leaving this prevent a contact from being active more than once off. So keep that one off if you want them to be able to go in multiple different times. Again, if you don't want them to have like multiple different flows at the exact same time, then you can always turn that on. Forcing flows to allow to always run on the contact, that would be more so like them having more control in terms of like continuing on, and then also confirming pages. All of these, this customization confirmation page is actually like a newer addition, so that if you have an action link inside of your emails, in your automation, then you're able to have a custom page in terms of like, thank you so much, you're done, or you're back in, or what have you. You could have a custom landing page rather than a action confirmed, this will look a lot better. So we're just going to save those. Now we have the actual automation set up. So automations are a very, very powerful tool inside of Simplero. There is so much that you can do with them. So if you click this little plus icon, this is going to add a step. Now, as you can see on this little right-hand side, this is all of the different things that you can have for a step. You have your different actions, which are all of these different things that you can do, like adding a tag, sending a text message, subscribing to a list. And then you also have like your control steps here, such as like a wait step or go to or stop. So we're going to go into the wait step first. So with the wait steps, now that we've selected a wait step, you have lots of different things that you can pick. So you can do like a while. So maybe you want it to be like 1 hour. And then in an hour, they're going to have the next action. You can always change this to minutes, days, months, weeks, years. You can also restrict it in terms of having it be a specific day of the month. So you can go in and you can pick like any day, first day. Maybe you want it to be the 18th day of the month. You can go in, you can be really specific. You can also pick a specific day of the week. So you could do, maybe we only want it to go off on Fridays. And maybe we also want to restrict the time in terms of we only want it to go off at 8 a.m. I like to kind of flag this one because this is a great way for you to be able to send out emails automatically. Like maybe you have an email that goes out every single Monday and you want it to go out, at 8 a.m. and you only want it to go out on Mondays and you just want it to repeat over and over. This is a great way to have that wait step so that it is in a very specific time and a specific day. So we're going to create that step. once it's created and you have something like the wait for an hour, and you want it to be on a Friday, what it's going to do is it's going to make sure it first meets this first condition, and then it's going to go here. So hypothetically, if we added someone to this automation on Friday at like 8:30, and I wanted to have them get this email, the same day, like let's say it's 8:30 p.m. It would first wait for an hour and then it would wait until Friday. So if it's already Friday, they would end up waiting until the next Friday. So just a little fun tip to kind of remember as you get going. Go back into those wait steps. You can also do a specific time. So that would be like July 18th at 9 a.m. You would be able to pick this. You'll have your little time clock, your calendar to pick your day and time, and it's going to show up in your time zone. So the first one, a specific time, will show up in your time zone that you have in your profile. And that'll give you a little tooltip here of like what is your profile time. If you need to change it, you can always go do that here in your profile. If you do a specific time in the contacts time zone, then you could have it be like, Friday at 9 a.m., but it's going to go based off of whatever your contacts time zone is. So if they are, in a different part of the world, they're going to get the email or whatever it is at a different time than what you might be in. You can also kind of restrict it again with those specific days. And then we also have, which I don't feel these are entirely relevant when you're picking a specific time, but again, it's going to go into those conditions of it's going to wait until that specific date, and then it's going to meet those other conditions. Um, we also have a custom field value. So maybe you have, a date and time value on their contact record. I've seen some folks in terms of like, a birthday, or maybe it's like a due date for a pregnancy. You can do a adjust time and you can pick your days, months, minutes, hours, all of that. And you can do not only before, but also after. So maybe you want to send like a birthday, email or something like that, you could do that based off of that custom field type, as long as it is like a date specific one. You can also do the product start. This is going to be where it's really important that if you want a product start wait step, that you are making sure that the automation itself is restricted to either a purchase or a participant, a product participant in that settings that we covered just a bit ago. Otherwise, that product start is really not going to be relevant unless those things are what's triggering the event or the automation, sorry. We also have subscription, renew, or expire. So maybe you have like your own series of reminders you want to send out for like a subscription purchase of like, hey, you only have X amount of time or something like that. This is going to be really relevant as long as the automation is set on a purchase. So the purchase would have to trigger the automation for it to make sure that it knows when that subscription is going to renew or expire. Then we get into my favorite wait steps, which is the event start or event end. Again, this is going to be really important that you have the automation set to like event participant, or making sure that your triggers are only specific to an event. If you have anything to do with like an event start or event end, or even event keys in your automation, none of those are going to end up populating unless it's triggered from an event. So you're able to then go, again, we have those drop downs. You can adjust your time to be, the days, hours, minutes, and then before or after, which again, you also have the end. So if you have a time specific event, it's only for an hour, and then you want to wait and do, maybe one day after the event, you can do that as well. So I'm going to close that out. Then we're going to go in and add our actions. So whenever you add any of these action steps, you can really do, like I said, 1,002 different things in terms of what you want to accomplish. All of these are just going to be things that you can do in terms of just having it go off without you needing to worry about it. If you send any of these action steps, for example, so we're going to do send email. They all have the option to do conditions. So just like the automation as a whole can have conditions, you can also do the conditions on the steps themselves in terms of only if they're tagged, or maybe they're not a participant on a specific product, or maybe they haven't purchased a different product, or they're not on another list. This is just going to make sure that maybe you want email A to go to, people on list one, but email B goes to people on list two. So this is a great way to kind of have people in the same automation, but having a little bit of control along the way in terms of what are they going to get? What emails do you want? Do you want certain steps that are only going to happen for them and not for the others? And then those conditions are going to be able to have anywhere on the steps that you're adding within your automation. There's also this little toggle, skip if most recent wait step was exceeded. I always try to kind of flag that that little toggle is best on the action steps. So you have, your email. We're going to do a new email. It's a really interesting email. And we're going to create that step. So now it's going to have that little arrow here. So that's just telling you like skip this email if the wait step is exceeded. So if you have like time specific steps like event start or product start or subscription renewal or something like that, and you're adding them into the automation and they get to this step, let's say they are getting added, really last minute, they would skip that email and go to the most recent or the most relevant action step. And then they wouldn't have to worry about getting bombarded with like a bunch of emails if you have like an entire reminder series. If you do it on like your wait steps, that's just going to ignore the wait steps and then move them on. You can do it on your wait steps. You can do it on any of the steps, really. It's kind of up to you. Let's see. We also have like the go-to. So go-to is really great if this is a automation that you want to continue to repeat and you want them to repeat and repeat, repeat. You can do like a go-to step and have them go back to step one once they get towards the end of your automation. You can also move these. So if we see these little dots here on that left-hand side of each of these steps, you can rearrange your automations so that they can be in a different order. So you can also use this go-to step so that maybe you have it conditionally of they're going to go to step one or go to whatever step only if they meet a certain condition or something like that. Like I said, there's so much you can do inside of automations. Automations are also really great in terms of like granting access. So I touched a little bit about it earlier in terms of, the dripping. So I do have and I'm going to come back to this automation in just a minute, but I do have this, test site that I have created, and inside it, I do have a course. So when we go into things like our courses, this is where you're going to mostly see that drip wording. You can also see it on landing pages, but inside of your course settings in that top right-hand corner, we're going to scroll down. And that's going to be where that published state is. So the published state is in terms of how you want it to function. Draft means it's still in like, a testing version. It's only for you, any admins on your account to see it. Published is like public. So public to anybody who is on your site or has access to your site. Dripped means you're controlling access. That's the biggest thing, is that if you want to control access, you want to make sure that it is set to dripped. There's different levels to how you can like have it set to dripped. And I'm going to pull up our help guide with a really great visual of kind of the different views of the dripped, because it's the best way I've ever seen it kind of explained real quick. There we go. Just going to share my screen again. All right. So this is our help guide. And as you can see, it has like a house visual. So dripped is like having a locked door. It's like having a lock on a door, and you have to make sure you're giving somebody a key. The site would be considered a house. So, it's the big building that everything is kind of stored into. You can either have like a public house, which means that it's just unlocked and there's no key to worry about. You can just walk right in. Or maybe that's kind of more like a store, right? And then inside of it would be like your course where you have the content. That's going to be where you want people to kind of be able to go into a certain room if they have access. So, like a bedroom might have a locked door, and they can't enter into that bedroom until you give them the key so they can see what's inside of it. And then maybe a living room would be like a public course where people who are in the house, we're going to go into the living room. You're not going to really lock anybody out of the living room. If you do, that might be a little strange, but that's okay. And then inside of your courses, you have your modules and you have your lessons. So each of those are able to be dripped, and you're able to put a lock on it in terms of making sure people have to get access to it. When we go into our course again, so if we go back into the content, as you can see, those modules have dripped that you can set it up as well as those lessons. So if we go into the module has the option of being dripped by day or by manually triggers and automations. If you do it by day, it will give them access to the module based off of when they get access to the course. So if you want them to see it right away, then you would just have it be published. If you want them to see it, say, in one day, then they would have to wait one day after they get access before they would be able to see the module and anything published inside of it. So even though the course is stripped, that means everything inside of it is not visual or visible to anybody until they get access. And then only the things inside of it that are fully published would be visible. So even though these lessons are published, that doesn't mean anybody can see them until they get access to the module. Lessons themselves, they can only be set to the draft, published, or dripped. If you set it up for dripped, then you would have to use either giving them manual access, using a trigger, or again, using that automation. So I'm also going to set these up as dripped this way. Okay. So now that these are dripped and the course is set to dripped, this is now going to allow us to go into that automation and grant access. So when we want to grant access to something that is dripped, then this is where you're going to be able to go in and do it. When you are going in, so we're going to do grant access. If I could type, when you go in and you want to give access to like a course or anything like that, you'll first want to give access to a site. Once you select your site, you have that option of not emailing them their login information, which would be that, automatic Simplero login. Maybe you want to do like your own email with their own, keys for login information and just make it more personal. You can always turn this off so they don't get bombarded. I would just make sure you give them an email of some sort with their login information so they don't like not know how to get into things. So once you give them access to your site, you can add another step and we'll do the access and you'll go down to a course. And this is only going to list any courses that you have on your entire account that is dripped. And then you can kind of see exactly which site it is on. If you have multiple different sites, then you would be able to see like, oh, well, I meant to give it to this course that is on this site and not a different one. We'll create that step. And then we'll do access again. And you can do the course module. My stuff wants to work. My laptop does not like me today. Oh, now it does. Okay. So once we've selected the course module, now you can select which course module you want to do. We'll go into that course and then we'll select the module. So you'll just keep on doing this in terms of adding access. So we'll do access and then we'll do to a course lesson. Again, we'll select the course and then we'll select the lesson that is selected as dripped. Next, we'll do, you can give access to like a dripped page. So if we were to go into our site and we go in here and go to our pages, you're able to have some pages set up as dripped, meaning that you want to make sure that they don't see it unless they get access. So if we were to go here and make this dripped, so we'll select that, and we're going to do give access, and we're going to do give access to a page. Now we're selecting our site, and then we're going to select that page. So now we have that page that we can give access to, and they'll only see that once you give access to that. 1 second. I have a little one trying to come in. Beauty of work from home, also a fault of working from home. All right, so I'm going to go back and share my screen again. Okay, so now that we have given access to those pages and things, they're going to be able to see that once they get into your site, they're going to be able to see things. All of these different things that we're adding to the automation, you can always set up as a trigger, as one of those like simple automations. It's just that this is going to be a series of steps that are going to be able to go in and have happen for your members. Once you have your automation built out and you have people getting added to it, so I'm going to delete this one, for example, and I'm just going to use the 3 dots up here. This is where you can like manually add somebody into your automation. So we could click Start Contact, and we're going to look for one of my contact records that apparently is not in here. We'll just do that. So now the automation has been started. So now that we refresh, you can see that I have a contact here in that wait step. So anytime you have a wait step, you're going to be able to see on that left-hand side that there's someone in it if there is somebody in it. All of your action steps will not show like that same, contact waiting or contact in that step. But once you have an email or something that has been sent, that will update all of this information here with those email stats. You also have this little flows tab here. This is where you're going to have a really great view of like who is in your automation, who has finished it, who's paused, all of the jazz. So if we go here, we can go into that contact, and we're going to be able to see all of the activities that have happened for this contact. So you can see that I was started at 9:28, and now I'm waiting until July 18th at 7 a.m. And it's going to tell you here what the next step is as well. If you're here and say, you want to like double check things on the contact record or something like that, you can click the name here, and that takes you right into the contact record of that contact. So it's a great way to be able to just really have a high view of like what's going on, how your contacts are doing, and then if somebody had stopped, you would be able to see that here, and the same with the completed and the paused. Another fun thing is that when you're going in here, you can also go into, say, your product, and I'm going to go into this product, for example. And earlier I had touched on those auto responses as I did on the list. But say we go into like our content, we can either go down here and add our automation directly. So that means that once something happens on this product, once the purchase goes through or the participant pay is changed, then they would start that automation. Again, when you have that automation restricted to a certain type, then the system's automatically going to go off of that. So if it's based off a participant state, it's going to go off of the participant. If it's based off of a purchase, it'll go off of the purchase. You can also go in and say we gave access to this site, and I'm going to click Save Changes. And I'm going to go out and build my auto response here. So we're going to have a really great new email 2.0. Once this email is created, you'll have the option down here of things that you can release. So all of those things that are dripped that we talked about earlier, that we did give access in the automation, you also have the option to drip it out in the auto responses as well. So once they, purchase this product and they get this email sent to them, you could also be giving them access to the page and then to the course, the lesson, and the module as well. So you're not necessarily restricted if your plan does not allow for those advanced automations. If you're on like the starter plan, this is another way to kind of get a similar effect in a different approach. But this would be more so on like those products and on those lists. And they go based off of when they go and purchase the product or sign up to that list. I'm going to check my notes real quick to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. The next one that I really want to flag on is removing access. So as we go back into our automation, for example, and we go into new automation, as we've given access to everything, you'll also want to revoke access. So even though somebody gets into your automation and they're given access, that does not mean that they're automatically going to revoke access. So say we waited and we're going to do 1 month and we're going to add a step. This is where we're going to want to go back in and we're going to revoke access. So doing everything in reverse. So once they, they have already completed your course or what have you, and you don't want them to have access to anything, then you'll just want to go in and we'll revoke access to the site, select the site, and we'll do the same thing. So everything that says access, you'll go back in and repeat, but with revoke. If you are dripping out access through the auto response, this would need to be done through like a trigger or manually in terms of revoking the access. However, if your product is like a subscription or something like that, and you're granting access to the site in the product, then they're automatically going to lose access to everything inside of that site once they can't see the site, as long as that site is, a locked site. So as long as it's not public, then as soon as they lose access through the product to that site, then they would lose access to everything inside of it. Because again, once you're locked out of a house, you can't really access anything inside of it, right? So that's just kind of one of those things of like, as long as you are losing access to the site, you're good to go. A good portion of it. It's just as if they get access to the site in other ways, they would still see all of the things that they were granted access to unless you revoke the access. We already kind of covered how to manually add access. Another thing that we could kind of touch on is everything that we've covered, you can also do manually yourself. So you can add those triggers, you can do those automations, but you can also go into like here. So if you're on like the contacts or anywhere that has this table, whether that's in your contacts, your purchases, your list, your products, anywhere, as long as you're on one of those tables, you can use the checkbox to the left, select action, and then you'll be able to do all of those same actions. So we can go in and we can start an automation if we would like, and we could go in and restart me in this automation or go into another one. And then you can also go into the contact records. So if we're in this contact record, we can also go down. We can start our automation here. We can give access to the site. We have lots we can do on the contact record. In the automation, I know I kind of flagged on this give access to site. We chose not to send the email with the login information. Whenever you're on like a contact record here, so if we go in and we wanted to give manual access to this site, I wouldn't have as much control in terms of preventing that login. So the login information would automatically be sent if you're inside of the contact record. If you go in and say we go into our contacts view, we're going to select this and we're going to give access. And we'll do a group, or no, we want to do site, sorry. Site is what triggers the login information. So we'll give access to a site. and we'll do that. And that's where that toggle is going to show up again. So on the table view, you can control that. On the products, on the list, on the automations, you're able to prevent them from getting that email with the login information. But if you're inside that contact record, you're not able to necessarily prevent it. You can also go in and manually revoke things. So as long as it's not tied to, let's say like a product or a list subscription, you can always revoke the access on the contact record directly, and you can stop their flows on that automation as well. Let's see. I believe I covered everything that I was intending to. Let's see. Do we have questions? I guess I can leave the floor open for you guys. So giving access to a course is not enough for them to get started. You have to give access to module and lessons too. Not necessarily. It really depends how you want it to flow. So if your module and if your lesson are all set for published inside of your course, if you give them access to the site and if you give them access to the course, they're good to go. You have to give access to a site and you have to give access to the course if the course is dripped. Every single time that you're going to grant access inside of a site, you want to make sure that you are granting access to the site as well as anything else that you want to give access to. One thing I forgot to touch on was groups, because you can also give access to groups. So like in your automation, you could go in, we can add a step and say we want to give access to a group. This would be like a private group or a secret group. You can also do this in the product as well. So if I also go here into the product and we go to content, once you give access to that site, all the things that are dripped or like locked or on the site in general are going to show up here. So you can give access to like the groups and the courses on those products. But again, like you can do that here and give access to group, and it's going to show us the secret group. So this way, whenever somebody enters in your automation or maybe they purchase your product, then they'll be able to get added into a group. A group it's more of like a closed forum inside of a site where you can kind of control how they have access to it, and you don't necessarily have it visible for everybody on the site. Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions? The floor is your guys's, so my brain is here for you to pick. I know I covered a lot.
Can I
Hi,
ask?
Valerie.
Hey there. So, like, if I want to have a course that somebody purchases and they have access to, that would live in the site, and
Right.
they would have, it would be dripped, has to be dripped, and then I have to give them access. And then I want them to have access to a membership area, like a community, then that would be a group.
If you don't want it to be like, if the site is going to have lots of different courses or lots of different topics, and you don't want that like community area to be visible to everybody on that site,
Yeah.
yes, you would want to do a group. There
Okay.
is like the site-wide forum, but that cannot be restricted currently. So the site-wide forum would be for everybody who is on your site. If you want it restricted, I would encourage like a secret group that you give them access to.
And then they can, that could be for a certain amount of time and then be made paid after, like, let's say like you wanted a paid group after 6 months of access to the course, but they keep the course, but if they want to stay in the group they have to keep paying.
Yeah,
Can you
you could do
structure it like that? Okay.
Yeah, you would have to probably do a little bit of like fancy work. Again, this is where those automations are going to be really, really helpful.
Okay.
Because what you could do is say that this was maybe your automation is being triggered by like a list subscription or something like that. You could have them go through your flow. You could do like, wait maybe we change this to wait 6 months, click Save Changes, and then you would revoke access to everything. And you could use conditions of like revoke access if they haven't purchased whatever, or if they have, yeah, only if they have not purchased X product. Um, and then you could also have like a secondary automation in terms of like maybe we go in and we're going to do paid access. This could be triggered based off of like a purchase. So the purchase on the product would be able to trigger it, and you would be able to go in and do all of those same things of like revoking access.
Mhm.
What could be really helpful and like really beneficial though is that you would have like a secondary or like a complementary automation for giving access that you could trigger when their product is canceled or deactivated. And that could be specific to revoking access. So you could create this and do revoke access. And this could be, you could wait 1 hour if you want, add a tag, canceled. I can't spell apparently. Create that. And then you would go in and you could do revoke access so that you're revoking all of that access if there was anything you gave access through like an automation. So if you don't want them to kind of go through your initial automation here, where you have like your paid access and you don't
Mhm.
want them to end up losing access inside of that automation, or maybe you have them wait like a ridiculous amount of time or something, or pause them or some you could really do anything. Um, then could have the revoke at the end of it. Um, there's, like I said, there's lots of different ways you could approach it, but personally, I would recommend having one flow that you could have that would be specific to like your free time, and would revoke access if they don't purchase your product, and then
Mhm.
making sure that you have a way that maybe people don't utilize that free time and you still want them to get access to certain things. You could do like a paid flow and then a revoke flow.
And so you could have the group, you could have like, let's say they don't want to have, you want to have a paid community, but so you could start somebody in the paid membership right away with the subscription and give access to the people who buy the course for that 6 months or whatever, and then, force them to become paid if they want to stay in the group. Is that right?
You could, I would, yeah. I think that's where you could give access to like the course and things like that in like the product itself. It just depends on like how your pricing and things are set up. If you have like a purchase price that they get access forever, um, then they would get access to any content that is on the product. So like the site and the course. If you want them to only get access to the group, X amount of time, if you want it time limited at all, use the automations.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. There's lots of different ways you can utilize it. Like I said, like the automations are just they're very vast. They're very powerful once you get comfortable with them and you're a little more familiar. Um, and like just playing with them is really helpful as well to really understand like how you want it to work. You can always reach out to our support team as well. Like if you build out your automation and you just want to verify, like, is this going to work how I want it to? We're happy to have a look at it and let you know if we see any red flags of like if it's not going to work how you want. Um, and always throwing yourself in, not genuinely throwing yourself in it, but like putting yourself manually into that automation to kind of see what the flow is like for your members can be helpful as well. Steffi, I saw you had a comment. I'm sorry, it is a lot. I try to slow myself down. I tend to talk fast, but I try really hard to slow down. Um, if I have a product and want to send an email to one person who has to do something connected to the product, and the email should be sent each time to the same person. I'm not sure I understand the question. So you want,
Hi.
hi.
Um, yeah, I have some products who are connected to different persons, and I
Mhm.
want to inform the person each time the product is sold. Um, do I have to have them in my contacts, and do I have to give them some kind of? How do I do this? Can I do this?
Yeah, you could do a notification email, um, which would go like a notification email is going to send to one specific person each time that something happens. So you can do that in an automation if you'd like, or you can do the content tab, go add trigger, and we can do like maybe we're going to do purchase activated, and we're going to send notification email. This is where you're going to end up selecting what email address you want that to send to. So you can select any email address really. Um, I don't know that they necessarily have to be in your contacts. I think it can be helpful,
Okay.
but you can send it to anywhere. So if you wanted to do bob@bobthebuilder.com, and you could, this is going to be like an internal thing, and you can personalize it with like the full name of the contact that purchased. All of this
Mm.
personalization would be based off of whoever initiated the purchase, but sent to whoever you select for that notification.
Okay, so I can include different kinds of information about the purchase or as the price, for example, or the
Mhm.
date, or and the yeah phone number or what anything from the participants or from the purchase. What's it called? So
Yeah.
I can personalize it with all
Yeah.
the details of the. Yeah, cool. That was easy.
You have this key here, and then like if we go here to the settings and go to contacts and then down to custom fields, if you have any of these, for example, and say we had a phone number one, I don't see it right off. There we go. If you have this here, you can click add key, and this is where you're going to be able to do like phone, and you would be able to just do these brackets, field dot phone, and then the brackets again, and that will pull in that information, which you can put in everywhere.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Hey, I have a question that and thank you. I'm on the road, and so my my connection is really spotty, but and I've missed a bunch of this, unfortunately. But I guess two questions. Come to think of it, is there going to be a recording of this? Is there? Awesome. Um,
Yes.
a- and the other, I'm wanting to set up a access to a course, and I'm wondering if I set up an automation um, and trigger it for people who are in a particular segment, or I could set it for people who have a particular tag. But will that automation, like when I turn it on, does it go out and automatically kind of poll the people who are already tagged, or does it need to see people being tagged?
So it's kind of a good rule of thumb within everything inside of Simplero is that every trigger that you set up, it is only going to apply from the moment you turn it on and set it up, um, on. So like for example, if you set up the automation to trigger based off of a tag being added, but the tag is already added on other folks, it would not automatically pull them. That's where you would need to manually add them into the automation.
Okay, so is there a way for me to manually add a segment to an automation?
Absolutely. Yeah, I will show you. We'll go back to our dashboard. So this could be really anywhere, whether you're going to go to your contacts, or maybe you're going into tags directly, maybe you're going into a list, but we'll use segments. And I'm just going to create one. New segment. And this is where you're going to be able to pull in all of those different folks. And so we're just going to do a list. And we'll click save and we'll add another one. Maybe we'll do tags. There we go.
Great.
So once you have your segment created, then you have a perform action button. And this is where you're able to do all of those same different actions of like adding a tag or what have you. And if you want to start an automation, you
Okay.
can just scroll down to automation.
Dialogue looks like so.
Yeah. You don't, and not all plans do include the segment.
Yeah. Right.
I think starter does not. So if you wanted to go based off of the tag, for example, if you had someone in there, you would just be able to go to like your contacts table and use those check boxes that'll show on the left side and then use the drop down, kind of like I did here, where you can go in and start an automation. So hopefully that helped answer your question.
Great. Yes, it is, and my connection is.
I totally get how that is. Wi-Fi, internet, technology, it's all really wonderful when it wants to work. And sometimes it likes to have like the worst timing of not working. So I know how that is. Any other questions? No? I know I covered a lot. If you guys have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I will be sending this recording out to you all here after it processes. And then I'll make sure that I update our recording in our workshops that are on our help site as well. But if we don't have any other questions, I guess we can call it a day. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye,
Thank you.
guys. Thank you.